Well, as we continue to dive deeper into the new charges and exactly what they mean, we want to bring on Sam Marcosson. He's a UofL professor with the Louis D. Brandeis School of Law. Thanks so much for coming on.
Happy to be here.
So we want to start by jumping right into it. A lot of people wondering if Kentucky Attorney General Daniel Cameron missed something when he only indicted one officer back in 2020. What's your take? Did he make a mistake?
I think it's very difficult to see these indictments today as anything other than a rebuke of the approach taken by the Attorney General and the limited scope of the case that was charged. With so many more things being in this indictment, the overlap really only applies to Hankison and the use of force in the actual raid on the apartment. When you talk about the affidavit, the conspiracy, the cover-up, all those things were not involved in the state prosecution, and it's more than fair to ask the Attorney General why, because it's very apparent today that the U.S. Department of Justice took a very different view of the situation.
And we know Brett Hankison, he was the only officer charged. That was for shots fired into Taylor's apartment. He was only charged on the state level. He was acquitted. Now he's charged again in these federal charges. Will that acquittal have anything to do with these charges? Will it have any impact?
Well, the first thing to say about that is that, again, that reveals dissatisfaction on the part of the Attorney General, the United States Attorney General, and the Department of Justice with how this case was handled at the state level. If they believed that that charge against Hankison in the state prosecution had been handled appropriately and effectively, I think it's very unlikely that they would have said, let's take a second bite at that apple. And so they believe that they can prove these charges, that they can show that excessive force in violation of the Constitution occurred, and that if that didn't happen in the state prosecution, that that's a real problem about how that case was handled by the prosecutors here in Kentucky.
And finally, and we just have 30 more seconds, so it's going to be quick, but they are investigating LMPD as a whole. Individual officers can be charged. How do you hold an entire agency accountable if there is some problematic patterns there?
Well, the short answer is you look for systemic reform. You say, here are the problems that were shown by what happened in Breonna Taylor's apartment, but they're evidence of wider problems. And so you seek reforms that will change the way LMPD handles its affairs and then monitor how those reforms are being implemented.
Sam, thanks so much for coming on today. We always appreciate all of your wisdom and knowledge, especially on this topic. We really do appreciate it.
You're very welcome.